When I found out my parents gave the family business to my sister, I stopped working long hours for free. A week later, my dad called in a panic. They were about to lose their biggest client. I just said, "Let Paula take care of it. She's the one you picked, right?" Hey, Reddit, before we get into it, I've noticed the channel slowing down a bit. If you like these stories, please hit that subscribe button. It's free and helps us keep going. Now, here's what happened. I've always believed in working hard to earn my place. After college, I joined my parents' consulting firm. They started it from nothing, and I was proud to be part of it. For almost 10 years, I worked 80-hour weeks, not because they made me, but because I wanted to prove myself. I didn't take a salary for the first 5 years. Every cent I made went back into the business. While my friends were buying condos and nice cars, I lived in a small one-bedroom apartment. I thought it was all worth it. My younger sister, Paula, took a different path. She was always more polished: private school, designer clothes, weekend trips abroad. She studied marketing, dabbled in influencer work, bounced around jobs, but she never stayed anywhere long. My parents always said she was finding her passion. I thought maybe one day she'd join the business too, but she never seemed interested, at least not until recently. A few months ago, Paula suddenly started showing up at the office. First, it was just to help with social media. Then, she began sitting in on strategy meetings, asking loaded questions, making big suggestions without understanding the operations. She had no background in business consulting, no relationship with our long-standing clients, but our parents acted like she was the next Steve Jobs. I tried to stay professional. I bit my tongue when she took credit for a new proposal I had spent weeks developing. I stayed silent when she called a senior client CEO by the wrong name in a presentation, and my father brushed it off with a chuckle. I chalked it up to sibling rivalry, told myself I was being petty. Then came the family dinner that shattered everything. It was a Saturday night. We were gathered at my parents' house, me, Paula, our parents, and a few of their old friends from the industry. Halfway through dessert, Dad raised his glass and announced they had finally decided who would take over the firm when they retired. I remember smiling politely, thinking they were just trying to stroke Paula's ego. Then he said it. They were handing the company over to Paula, not as a co-owner, not as a partner, sole owner. She would become CEO and take full control, effective immediately. I choked on my wine. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, but it never came. Mom just nodded, beaming like they were giving away a family heirloom and I should be grateful. I stood up, heart pounding, and asked them if this was a joke. Dad just sighed and said Paula had the vision to bring the company into the future. He told me I was too operational, too focused on the past. He said they appreciated my dedication, but that the business needed fresh blood. I laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. I told them I'd been working 80-hour weeks for free. I built relationships. I restructured the financial system. I brought in our 2 biggest accounts. And now I was being cast aside like an unpaid intern. Paula had the audacity to smirk and say, "Don't be dramatic. It's just business." That night, I packed up everything from my office. I sent an email to the entire team thanking them for their support. And I walked away. No drama, no warning. I just disappeared. A week later, my phone rang. It was Dad. He sounded unhinged. One of our biggest clients, a major tech firm that brought in almost 40% of our revenue, was threatening to leave. Apparently, Paula had tried to renegotiate their contract without consulting their needs. She wanted to rebrand their whole strategy, which they never asked for. Dad begged me to step in, just to fix it, just this once. He said I was the only one who could salvage the relationship. He was on the verge of tears. I took a breath and said, "Let Paula handle it. She's the heir, right?" Then I hung up. The fallout was immediate. I started hearing whispers from mutual contacts. Several key employees were threatening to quit. Clients were questioning the firm's direction. Paula had no answers. My parents were scrambling. And me? I was finally sleeping 8 hours a night. At first, I thought that would be the end of it. Let the house burn. But then something happened that changed everything. A few days after that call, I received a LinkedIn message from the CEO of that tech firm, the one Paula nearly lost. He said he respected my decision to step back, but that he missed working with me. He asked if I'd consider consulting privately, even just temporarily. He said he'd trust me with his business again, no strings attached. I met him for coffee, then another client reached out, then another. Within a month, I had formed my own small firm, just me and a few ex-colleagues who had quietly left the old company. We started small, intentionally, no office, just laptops and late-night strategy sessions at my kitchen table. And the clients? They followed. Not all of them, but enough. Enough that I was making more money in 1 month than I ever earned in a year at my parents' company. Enough that I started getting attention. That's when Paula called. I didn't answer. Then my mother emailed, asking if we could have dinner, just the three of us, her, Dad, and me. She said things hadn't gone as planned and they wanted to talk. I haven't replied yet. A part of me still wants to hear what they have to say. Another part is furious. They're only reaching out now that they're in trouble. And the worst part? Paula's been posting vague quotes on Instagram about betrayal and family snakes, as if I stole something from her. But I didn't steal anything. I just stopped giving everything away. Now the question is, do I meet them and listen to whatever apology or request they have lined up? Or do I keep moving forward and never look back? Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that loyalty without respect is just exploitation, and I'm done being exploited. I ended up agreeing to the dinner, not because I missed them, not because I forgave them, but because I wanted to look them in the eye and see if there was even a trace of guilt. I wanted to see if they still believed what they did was just business, or if they'd finally realized they'd gambled the company away on a fantasy and lost. We met at their favorite steakhouse, the same one we used to go to for company milestones, landing new clients, closing contracts, celebrating promotions. It was surreal walking in, knowing I was no longer part of that world. But the strangest part? I wasn't nervous. I felt free. They were already seated when I arrived. My father stood up awkwardly, like he wasn't sure if he should hug me. He didn't. My mother gave a forced smile. Paula, thankfully, wasn't there. Small talk lasted all of 5 minutes before my dad cleared his throat and said, "We made a mistake." I stared at him. No defensiveness, no sarcasm, just waited. "We thought we were doing what was best for the company," he continued. "We thought giving Paula control would take things to the next level, but it's been a disaster. Clients are pulling out. Staff turnover is through the roof. She's in way over her head." My mom jumped in. "We should have listened to you. We underestimated how much you were holding everything together." I nodded slowly, still silent. Then came the pitch. They wanted me to return, not just as an employee, but as CEO, full control. They were willing to transfer ownership, rebrand under new leadership, clean house if needed. They said they'd step back completely. Paula would be out, no questions asked. It was everything I had wanted, everything I had earned. But as I looked at them, something in me twisted. "Why now?" I asked. "Because the money dried up? Because your golden child set the place on fire?" My dad flinched. "Because we were wrong, and because you're the only one who can save it." For a moment, I felt the old pull, the part of me that still loved that company, the legacy, the people I had mentored, the part of me that still wanted my parents' approval. But that part of me had died the moment they handed my life's work to someone who had never earned it. "I already have a company," I said calmly, "one that I built, one where nobody questions whether I belong." My mother's face fell. "We just thought you'd want it back. You didn't think I'd want it when you gave it away." They offered to buy out my new firm, merge it with theirs, said we could rebuild together. I told them no, flat out. And then I asked the question I had been holding in since the night they blindsided me. "Why her?" They were quiet for a long time. Finally, my dad said, "She needed it more, she was struggling, and we thought giving her purpose would help." I laughed, not bitterly this time, just disbelief. "So you sacrificed the one daughter who was thriving to fix the one who wasn't?" They didn't have a response. I stood up, tossed my napkin on the table, and told them I hoped they'd find a way to clean up the mess, but I wouldn't be part of it, not again. As I left the restaurant, I felt lighter than I had in years. That was 6 months ago. Since then, my firm has tripled in size. We now have an office downtown, a waiting list of clients, and investors approaching us instead of the other way around. My name is starting to mean something in the industry, not because of my parents, but in spite of them. Paula? She's no longer CEO. Rumor is she tried to pin everything on a junior manager and stormed out after a board meeting turned ugly. My parents are trying to salvage what's left, but most of the top-tier clients are gone, so are the best employees. A few of them now work for me. I don't speak to my family anymore, not because I hate them, but because they made a choice. And so did I. Sometimes people confuse legacy with loyalty. They think just because something is handed down, it must be protected at all costs, even if it poisons you in the process. But I've learned that blood isn't a business plan, and family doesn't entitle you to blind devotion. I didn't burn that bridge, they set it on fire the day they pushed me off it. All I did was build a better one. And now, I don't need theirs at all.